Welcome, Gemini, to the month of November 2018. I'm Megan of North Star Astrology, and this is another general transits reading for those of you born with your sun, moon, and rising signs in the air sign of Gemini the Twins. Now, the month starts out with Venus having been transiting your fifth house of romance and creativity in Libra, and then sextiling or making a 60-degree short but sweet aspect to the moon in Leo. And the north node of the moon is over here too in Leo still until it changes. However, Venus in Libra in your fifth house gives you a love of creativity and emotionally coming from it or through it and with it in a more intellectual and yet positive and beautiful, and also being able to communicate with a possible romantic partner at this time. So there's a lot of beauty to November 2nd. And then on November 4th, Jupiter in Scorpio sextiles the moon once the moon comes into your fourth house of the home in Virgo, and then makes that sextile to the moon, so from your sixth to your fourth houses at 7:27, 7 hours and 27 minutes, that is, Jupiter will be sextiling the moon. Now, with this, you may very well be able to ask for a raise and receive it, or in some way, especially for the home, or you'll be able to get some big time off to be within your home or somehow work in your home, and it's going to be positive. Then on November 6th, Venus conjuncts the moon once the moon comes into Libra and into your fifth house. And that happens at 8 hours, 20 minutes. And with this conjunction, you'll be even more emotionally intensified with love and creativity, and it's just going to be really more amplified, so to speak, but in a good way. Then also on November 6th, Uranus, having been transiting through your 12th house of the subconscious mind and dreams in Taurus, at 19:01 goes retrograde as it moves into Aries, into your 11th house of friendships, goals, hopes, and wishes. And at this time, it will be, I don't know if it's supposed to be retrograde on and off. I think it's only supposed to go retrograde now in Aries. And with this placement of Uranus transiting your 11th house, you'll have sudden opportunities to somewhat reflecting from the creative house of creativity. You'll have sudden opportunities to expand your friendships and or group events, and Uranus won't go direct until January 6, 2019, at which time it moves back into Taurus on March 6th, 2019. So there's a little bit of a lag, but it's interesting what's going on here. Then on November 6th as well, the north node of the moon moves out of your fourth house of the home and enters your second house of money and what you value in the sign of Cancer at 17 hours 38 minutes, and won't be entering your sign until May 5th, 2020. So it will remain in the north node of the moon and or Dragon's Head will remain in your second house until May 5th, 2020, which will help fulfill your money woes or in some way fulfill your ability to resourcefully on your own resources. Your resourcefulness will be able to give you that fulfillment that you'll need. Then on November 7th, the new moon occurs in your sixth house of health, work, and service given in Scorpio. So the sun's in Scorpio, Jupiter's in Scorpio, and now the new moon at 1603, giving you the ability to perhaps find a new job, start a new job, or come up with new innovative whatevers, or start a new health regime, things like that. Then on November 8th, Jupiter in Scorpio does like what's known as an inconjunct, and I don't have a tab for that because it's a very rare aspect in the monthlies. And an inconjunct is 5 signs or 5 houses away, and what Jupiter's going to do is inconjunct, or it's also known as quincunx, the planet Uranus. So this on November 8th might make you feel a bit inadequate, and that's kind of what I've seen that do in other people's natal charts. An inconjunct can sometimes make the person feel inadequate, and you may feel inadequate like at a work function, and that's it, but it's not too trifling, and you can overcome that. Just be yourself and be mindful, and don't even fret about it. Then on November 8th as well, Mars in Aquarius transiting your 9th house squares the new moon at 10:43, giving you again the ability to take new actions from the new moon phase, new actions perhaps in higher education, some sort of long distance journey. And there you have it with that. Then on November 8th as well, Jupiter enters Sagittarius and enters your 7th house of relationships or others at 12:40. November 11th sees that Uranus trines the moon once the moon also enters Sagittarius and into your 7th house. So now, and notice your ruling planet Mercury is temporarily here in the 7th house and in your opposite sun sign of Sagittarius. However, okay, we're dealing with, what did I say? Uranus trining the moon. And this is going to bring you a lot of harmony between and with your spouse or significant other, and friendships in a most jovial way. I totally love it when the moon's in Sagittarius. That's so cool. You know, it really gives me that sense of happiness whenever the moon is like halfway out of Scorpio and going into Sagittarius. Then on November 13th, Uranus proceeds to square the moon once the moon enters Capricorn in your 8th house of others is resources and or sex, death, and taxes. And with this square, this might make you have a bit of a challenge in possibly emotionally trying to obtain maybe some resources, like asking to borrow money from a friend, and it's not happening, or they're giving you kind of a why do you need it kind of thing, but it's only short-lived and it's a short aspect and it shouldn't be too much of a problem, hopefully. And then on November 15th, the first quarter moon occurs in your 9th house at 23 degrees Aquarius, 11 minutes at 14:55. And obviously that's military time that I'm referring to. So that would be like, let's see, 2:55 in the afternoon or something. Yeah. Okay, so with this first quarter moon stemming from the new moon, and in the other air sign of Aquarius, your ability to take steps, first steps, baby steps, so to speak, as you're the toddler of the zodiac. There's significant, interesting things. Aries is the infant, and Taurus is the baby, and so on. But baby steps here in the 9th house, and not a bad thing. You know, in other words, making you feel more mindful. Then on November 15th, Mars, excuse me, I'm pointing to Neptune here. Hello. Mars, here we go, leaves Aquarius and enters Pisces in your 10th house of career and public standing. And it's also the house of the ego. So this is a time to be more mindful. However, with Pluto, I am smelling my next door neighbor's secondhand smoke, and it's giving me a headache. Okay, and I'm kind of like, God, phew. And I can't have my fan on because then you'll hear it. Okay, with Neptune in Pisces and with it being retrograde and such, and now with Mars entering Pisces, there can sometimes be almost like a bit of subterfuge. That's the word that comes to mind. Or some kind of actions taken, hopefully not behind your back. But that's the feeling I get, and it's not a bad thing. That's not me. I'm not saying that is a bad thing, but something happens when Mars leaves Aquarius and enters Pisces, and yet, by the same token, it's a very spiritual or spiritually enlightened placement to have Mars go into Pisces. And it's not I'm really not sure how that will affect your 10th house. Oh, I know. This will make you more driven to succeed in your career. That's why I was saying just be mindful. Okay, then on November 16th, the planet Uranus sextiles that still moving along first quarter phase moon at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay, so now from the air sign of Aquarius, the air sign of Aquarius to the fire sign of Aries. This short but sweet sextile between the moon and Uranus, being that it's a sextile, won't be too emotionally upsetting, as this is the planet of sudden occurrences. It also governs earthquakes, of all things. Then on November 16th as well, Venus stations direct at 10:52. And then the following day, on November 17th, Mercury. Oh boy, here we come. Mercury goes retrograde. Oh boy. I like it when I can say Mercury goes direct. Ah, yay. But okay, it's going to be retrograde for a time in your 7th house of relationships and others. At 11:34, that happens on November 17th. So be mindful, as this is your ruling planet, Gemini, and it's in your opposite sun sign of Sagittarius. And so be mindful of not allowing yourself to be glib or try to pull the wool over someone's eyes, or refrain from mental and emotional manipulation, if you will. And then on November 18th, the sun trines the moon. Once the moon goes into your 10th house of career in Pisces. Okay. Oh, by the way, also, since Mercury, your ruling planet, is retrograde in your 7th house, also be watchful and cautious of signing any documents, such as divorce papers, because this also is the house of marriage and divorce. So please be mindful of being sure to cross your T's and dot your I's and really read over the fine print. Okay, so now back to the sun in your 6th house of health and work and service given, harmoniously trining the moon in your 10th house. So from your 6th house to your 10th house, we now have this beautiful water trine between the sun and the moon, albeit quite harmonious. And that happens at 8:05. And you can emotionally connect yourself to how you can serve in better ways and or just relate to your colleagues and or superiors or whatever. So it's going to be really harmonious. Then also on November 20th, Uranus, the planet Uranus, trines the moon, conjuncts the moon. Oh, thank God. I'm not on my game this morning. As I said, all that nasty smelling secondhand smoke coming in through my air conditioning vent. Okay. So there's a conjunction between Uranus and the moon at 22:47 in Aries. Moon conjunct Uranus. Emotional outbursts of joy, impulsive, emotional, spontaneous fun with friends. That's what I see with that. Then on November 22nd, the sun enters Sagittarius. How am I going to do this? Okay, the sun enters... Oh, Lord, it's a tight confinement here. Okay, because I want to put the sun before Jupiter. Okay, so the sun enters Sagittarius and enters your 7th house, and it will transit your 7th house of relationships at 9:03, giving you the ability to shine in cooperation with either business partners and or your significant other, or any kind of relationship for that matter. Perhaps even relationships with your companion pets or whatever. Then on November 22nd as well, Pluto, which has been transiting your 8th house in Capricorn, trines the moon. Once the moon, ow, that was my elbow that cracked. Okay. Did you hear that? My elbow cracks. Okay. Well, when I was hit by a car on my 10-speed, I slammed into the pavement with this right arm of mine. So my right elbow cracks every so often. So if you heard that, just call me Snap Crackle Pop. Okay, so Pluto in Capricorn trines the moon in Taurus. Now from your 8th to your 12th houses, Earth to Earth, at 10 a.m. or so. Yeah, looks like that's what it's showing. On November 22nd. This is a good time to want to feel like you want to be somewhat reclusive and go within, and you want to kind of keep yourself private, and you just want to not be, but you also feel touchy at this time. But since this is a trine and it harmoniously trines the outer planet Pluto, you're given the ability to delve deeply within your subconscious mind, or psyche, if you will, and harmoniously fetter out some sort of insights, self-healing, if you will. I do a lot of self-healing. Then on November 23rd, the full moon occurs in your sign, Gemini, at 0 degrees Gemini, 52 minutes, at 5:40 in the afternoon. So the full moon occurs in your first house of the self and body, opposing all of this. However, there is no aspect at this time. There was none aspecting any of this from your full moon. And I noticed this. I'm noticing something. All of the month of November is so beautiful for that reason. There's a lot of sextiles and trines and a lot less squares and oppositions. So, the holiday season of Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving, by the way, because right after the full moon, I believe that's when Neptune stations direct at 1:09. Oh, anyway, getting back to your full moon in your sign, this will help you illuminate what you can do about yourself and your body, and take care of yourself versus all the other people that you try to help. And then again, then like I said, on November 25th, Neptune stations direct, also helping you, as it's also a mutable sign, and that mutable energy, as you're a mutable air sign, mutable water sign, this gives you the energy to be less befuddled now that it's stationed direct, or will be stationing direct on November 25th. Also on November 25th, Uranus sextiles that same waning full moon. Now that the full moon is waning and coming sort of like toward the, like nearing the end of your first house. See, it started out at 0 degrees Gemini, so it would have been like right about here, very, very close to the cusp of Taurus and or your 12th house. So now with the full moon sextiling Uranus on November 25th, you now also have the ability to shine and or illuminate in a very positive, short but sweet, sextile to the planet Uranus toward your goals, your wishes, albeit this will be somewhat impulsive, but with the sextile it tempers it down and gives it that gentleness. And And it just gives you the ability to be yourself now, really be able to open up with that full moon with and through your friends and group events in a most possible eccentric way and or unique way. Then on November 27th, Uranus then proceeds to square the oh, okay, baby, go lie down. Okay, Uranus proceeds to square the moon now that it's no longer in its full moon state. Now there's a bit of a challenge once again, now this time dealing again with your resources versus what your friends might want from you. So be careful that you don't emotionally give too much spontaneously or impulsively to your friends, as when you tried to ask for it before, they weren't willing to help you, so now, yeah, that's what I say. But anyway, on November 29th, Jupiter, now in Sagittarius, semi-squares, so it's sort of like a little bit of like a, like that. So Jupiter semi-squares Pluto. However, I don't have one of those tags because it's a very rare aspect. And so Jupiter between the 7th and the 8th houses, this very short aspect between Jupiter and Pluto kind of gives you a possible irritation, if you will, as it's a semi-square, as two keys on a piano keyboard creating dissonance. So that's what I see with that. Then on November 29th as well, Uranus trines the moon. Once the moon comes into your third house of communications and harmoniously trines Uranus in your 11th house in Aries. So now, once again, you're really dealing a lot with your friends this month, and you're able to communicate your needs or wishes in a very flamboyant way, but yet harmonious way. Then, on the final day of November 30th, the last quarter moon occurs in Virgo at 7 degrees Virgo, 43 minutes, or 0 hours, 20 minutes. And with that, this wraps up your last quarter moon wraps up in your fourth house of the home. And I hope you had, or will have, I hope you have a very happy Thanksgiving. That's the newer pumpkin, as it's sort of kind of like a, and I found this, where did I find this? Target. Sort of artsy, right? And you are here and here, only retrograde. Okay, and so I hope you enjoyed this reading. And if you did, please feel free to like, give me a thumbs up, comment down below, and or subscribe. And if you're wondering why I have this medical grade bandaging. It's because I have stitches right here on the palm of my hand that I'm trying to protect. And I had to have surgery because I am sadly getting this hereditary disease that my mom has called Dupuytrens Contracture. And all last night, the palms of my hands were stinging and burning. And that's odd because I haven't had surgery on this hand yet. But this one just sort of aches. Yeah. So, yeah. And I won't recover from this until like around November 1st. The surgeon told me 6 weeks for my hand to heal. See, darn it, my fingers are starting to bend in more. So I'm trying to do everything I can to eat right. And I'm going to try to find some hand exercises. Anyhow, if you're wondering what this is all about, yeah, my palms itch. Oh, yeah. So, I'm going to take a little peace and prayer with me. And if you would please, however you do, say a little prayer for me. Bye.